Welcome to ABES Engineering College. This is subject of object-oriented programming with Java, and the topic is the idea behind the exceptions. The idea behind exceptions. We have discussed already the overview of unit number 2 in previous lecture. My name is Tarun Kumar Gautam, Assistant Professor in Department of CSEDS. Okay, shall we start? Okay. In this lecture, we will discuss the idea behind the exceptions. And I have discussed the important topic, the difference between exceptions and error. E and E means one is exceptions and second is error. So what is the difference between exceptions and error? We will discuss. In next topic, we will discuss the types of exceptions. There are two types. One is checked exceptions. Second is unchecked exceptions. So we will discuss this type of the exceptions. Means there are three topics. First is the idea behind the exceptions. Second thing, difference between the exceptions and error. Third topic is type of the exceptions, which will be divided into two parts. First is checked exception and unchecked exceptions. तो हम स्टार्ट करते हैं पहला टॉपिक. The first topic is exceptions handling. The exception handling in the Java is one of the powerful mechanism to handle the runtime error so that the normal flow of the application can be maintained. During the runtime, the error scheme. To handle this error in Java, it is important part. The normal flow of the application, maintain the normal flow of the application is important. So it is done by the exceptions handling. That's called exceptional handling. In Java, the exceptions is an event that's a normal flow of the program, which is through at the runtime. Second thing. Third thing is exceptional handling is a mechanism to handle the runtime error. Which type of error? First is class not found error, input output error, SQL error, remote error. So these are errors found during the exception handling. Means the exception handling in the Java is one of the powerful mechanism to handle the runtime errors. तो runtime जो errors हमारे पास आते हैं जब हम प्रोग्राम को रन करते हैं उसको हैंडल करने के पावरफुल मैकेनिज्म है जिसे हम कहते हैं एक्सेप्शन हैंडलिंग. और यही एक प्रोग्राम को डिस्टर्ब भी कर सकता है. इसके टाइप भी हैं जैसा आई हैव डिस्कस्ड द सच एज क्लास नॉट फाउंड. You have made a class but class is not found. Input output, you written some wrong code, SQL queries and remote, etc. The idea behind of exception in Java, the exception is an unwanted and unexpected event that's occurred during the execution of program at the runtime. We have discussed. In second part, the exceptions are the caught and handled by the program. Program के अंदर इसको हम ढूंढते हैं और इसको हम सॉल्व करते हैं. That's a caught and handled. CH. In third part, the exceptions occurs within methods and create an object, which is very important part. कि जब हम exceptions हमारे पास आता है एक मेथड के अंदर तो हम एक ऑब्जेक्ट बनाते हैं. We create an object. The object is created when the exceptions came within the method. This is object is called exceptions object. Important part. This is called exceptions object. Means the exceptions occurs within the method. It's created object. This object is called exceptions object. The next is it contains information about the exceptions such as the name, description of the executions and state of the program which is exceptions occur. तो इसके अंदर हमारे पास कुछ इन्फॉर्मेशन होती है जैसे उसका नाम क्या है, उसका डिस्क्रिप्शन क्या एक्सेप्शंस का, उसकी स्टेट क्या एक्सेप्शंस की और कैसे जब वो आया तो उसकी स्टेट क्या थी. It's contain information about the exceptions such as the name, description of the exceptions and the state of the program when the exceptions occurred. The control flow of exceptions. The control flow of exception. The core advantage of exception handling is maintaining the application normal flow. As I discussed कि हमें सबसे प्रॉब्लम क्या है कि हम जो हमारा जो प्रोग्राम चल रहा है उसको कंट्रोल फ्लो जो है उसको मेंटेन करना. Because there are so many times the exceptions came. It will hamper the next executions in the program. See, in example, exception normally disturb the application as I discussed the normal flow and we use handle the exceptions. जब हमारे पास प्रोग्राम के अंदर एक डिस्टर्ब आ जाता है तो हम उसको एक्सेप्शन हैंडलिंग के थ्रू उसको सही करते हैं. ये बता रहे. Let us consider हम एग्जांपल थ्रू समझते हैं इसको. That's statement number 1, statement 2, 3, 4, 5 And consider the exceptions came in statement number 5. So then the other statement further of statement number 6, matlab 6 to 10, they will not execute because the exceptions came at time of statement 5. Got it? The exceptions came at statement number 5. So this statement will not be used. This is given in detail. Suppose there is a 10 statement in your program and there occurs exceptions came in statement number 5. The rest of the code will not be executed. As I discussed, the statement 6 to 10 is not run. If we perform the exception handling, the rest statement will be executed. That's why we are using exception handling in Java. That's the main important point. The major reason why exceptions occurs. Exceptions हमारे पास क्यों आते हैं? क्या कारण है उसका? The first reason is invalid user input. The input given by the user is invalid. The exceptions came. Second, device failure. The device is failed. Third, the loss of the internet connection. Fourth, physical limitation out of disk or the memory. Fifth, the code errors. And sixth is opening an unavailable file. So these are the major reason exceptions occur. Means invalid user input, device failure, loss of internet connections, physical limitation, code error, and opening an unavailable file. That is error. See the error. Error represents irrecoverable conditions such as the Java virtual machine, JVM running out of the memory, memory leak, stack overflow, library incompatibility, infinite recursion. Infinite recursion means loop in a loop. So these are the errors. These errors are usually beyond the control of the program and we should not get to handle of the error. Means the Java virtual machines, JVM running out of the memory, memory leakage, stock overflow, errors, library incompatibility, infinite recursion. And this is the beyond of the control of the program. You can see the exceptions hierarchical. This is an object. An object is divided into two parts. One is exception, second is error. So now we have discussed already the exception is two types, checked exception and unchecked exception. The checked exception is input, output, and compiler the time exceptions. But in unchecked exception, there is a runtime and null point exceptions. Same. In the case of the error, you can see there are two types of error. One is virtual machine error and assertion error, which we have discussed. The leakage memory, stack flow, this type of error. It's mean objects, the column is created into two types, exceptions and errors. And errors also divided into two parts, checked exception and unchecked exception. And the errors divided also in two parts, virtual machine error and assertion error, etc. The difference between the error and exceptions we have discussed. The error is an error indicates the serious problem that is reasonable application should not be tied to catch. First thing. And exceptions is exception indicates a condition that is a reasonable application to might to be tied to catch. These are simple difference. The type of exceptions, अगर आप exception की बात करोगे तो type क्या क्या exceptions के? There are user defined exceptions and something is built in exceptions. तो अगर हम user defined की बात करते हैं तो अलग है, दूसरा है built in exception. In built in exception there are two types, checked exception and unchecked exception. In checked exception there is some parts. First is class not found exception, interrupt exceptions, input output exceptions, instantaneous exceptions, SQL exceptions, file not found exceptions. In unchecked, the arithmetical exception, class cast exceptions, null pointer exceptions, error index out of the boundary exceptions, array stored exception, and illegal thread state exceptions. These are the type of the exception which is important. And built-in exception in the case of the built-in exception, the built-in exception are the exceptions that are available in Java libraries, and these exceptions are suitable to explain certain situations, certain error situations. Checked exceptions are called compile time exceptions because these exceptions are checked at the runtime, at the compile time of the compiler. Okay. In next topic is unchecked exceptions. The unchecked exceptions are just opposite to the checked exceptions. They will not check as the time of the compile. First thing, in simple word, if a program and Even we did not handle and declare it is program would not be compilation. Okay. The user defined function. In the user defined function in Java, it is not available to describe certain situation. In such cases, user can also create exceptions, which is called user defined exceptions. Means user can create exception according to its own. Java is not created this type of exceptions and not described. Advantage of exception handling. The first thing is to complete the program execution. Second is easy identification to program code and error handle. Third is propagation of error. Fourth is meaningful error reporting. And sixth is identify error type. Okay, these are some advantage of exception handling. These are some reference I have discussed already.